Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mitten Backstage. This week, we have Olivia Vargas. She is a talented pianist, vocalist, songwriter, arranger with a great band supporting her. Obviously, I'm talking about the band August, who has made a splash in the Grand Rapids scene with their creative approaches to a soul pop vibe. I first met Olivia years ago through a mutual friend, and we have been working together in various capacities ever since. If you liked the conversations that we had today here on the podcast and you want to support podcasts that I create, you can head on over to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker. There you can get access to early finished episodes of the audio and video versions of each podcast, exclusive merch, behind the scenes, live streams, and the ability to hire me as an instructor, consultant, or recording artist. So thanks again, and feel free to like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you happen to be listening on, whatever way you can show your support with those clicks, that definitely helps. And feel free to share it with some friends. I'm sure there's someone in your life who could benefit from these types of conversations that we're having here in the Michigan music scene. All right, let's get right into today's episode with Olivia Vargas. All right, I think
you did all your things.
Yeah, all of the effort to just schedule what I've been doing the last 2 months with this episode of. Like, can you do this day at this time? Oh, wait, never mind. This time, no.
You're a busy man. You must have, your schedule must be getting a lot more insane now that things are starting to open up and it's getting warmer.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I was actually talking to Joe Sturgill about it, just a second ago. The fact that I'm at a point where I've been working for myself again for so many months that I'm a better version of a self-employed boss than I was when I was a freelancer in college. But I'm now at that point where it's like, if you're gonna have me drive to anywhere, if you're gonna have me commit to something, it's like, sure, I have to enjoy it. Sure, it has to be some cool music thing, or it's a way to collaborate or something. But if I'm gonna drive somewhere, it's like you're not just paying me for, oh, he's coming to the town to play music, and he's, it's how much time is travel, and then even after that, it's like you booking me for a thing that's a lot of time investment during a day. It potentially, it could mean that I'm gonna have to either stay up late to finish a thing, or I'm gonna be behind on something that I wanted to get done sooner. So it's like I'd done getting paid not enough to be behind on projects.
Which is good that you're sticking up for how much you probably should have been paid normally, before. But
right.
Maybe you got a good reset in this whole deal. And it's not weird to raise your price now because we had all that space in between.
Yeah, it definitely I had some people who were even if it was jokingly, they're like $20 album reviews, that should be free. Musicians don't have any money. And I'm like, it's $20 and I'm a musician. It's I'm not I'm not hey, welcome to Amazon. We're going to pay you this much. Oh, and your uniform's $80 and you need an employee tote bag for $100. I don't know what they charge, but, it's not me going hey, I'm giving you a little bit of money so that you can, or I'm providing a service and I don't know, charging an exorbitant cost because some people have made off crazy with I think of they just caught a lady who defrauded the PPA loans and filed under 2 LLCs and got like $3.5 million.
And she ruins it for all of us, because then they all are suspicious.
Yeah.
Scare the crap out of all of us when we're doing our taxes and stuff. Not fair.
Yeah, it's like this lady, because it was so very clearly like it's like the people that do those kind of scams, and then they, you know, a more sinister business person would like invest it in kind of ambiguous holdings and like shuffle money around and like get it out of the country and some like just, you know, have their money so confusing that it's hard to follow. But like this lady bought like 2 houses, a new car, a bunch of like, you know, designer clothes and handbag. It's like the same stuff that people are like, I won $4 million in the lottery and it was gone in a year. Like, what happens? Like, well, you bought a Lamborghini full of gold bars. Like, what do you, where do you think the money went?
What did you expect?
Yeah, but you're here. You're still moving and doing things with the pandemic.
Trying to, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've seen some of the things you've been doing, like August kind of taking the reins and making an album, like a self-produced album, and the streaming and kind of, I don't know, I feel like the projects, even without doing a lot of live shows, like you guys have put in a lot of work over the last year.
I think we've tried to like keep it going, you know. I think that we were already setting like this project in motion. Like, well, when we made our EP last March, we were like literally right at the end of recording everything. So it was like, well, we have nothing else to work on, so let's just keep doing it. And I think unlike a lot of other groups that I don't know, didn't have the technology and stuff to like adapt quickly, we were able to do that. And so it wasn't like, I don't know, it was just something that we were doing anyways for fun. And then we just I happened to have Bailey and Michael, who are technology gurus, to like keep us going. And it's been helpful because we've been able to, despite not really having any shows, I mean, we played a couple over the summer, but we can still create and stuff and keep going. I think we were kind of at the point of like, we didn't just work that freaking hard for nothing. Like, we're not just gonna give up, you know, doing what we have been working on for the past how many years just because the world shut down. We need something to keep our sanity. So
yeah, and it reminded me of, at least, I didn't hear this quote that long ago, but from you explaining this, the thought process of your band, like, it's like we've worked too hard to just like, like, well, I guess this is it. We're done. It's like, no, we've overcome problems before as a group, and we can work through it. I was listening to this podcast interview with Kev on Stage, the comedian, and he he kind of went from small medium internet success to being kind of a recognized entertainment brand. And it's not like, it's like, oh, it's Kev on Stage, and he got big because he, The Rock started a podcast network or something. Like, I don't know, like, it's not like he latched onto something that was already there. He kind of built it over the last 12 years, just from things he was naturally drawn to, and then certain goals he had for wanting to own a business. And he said, when he was asked, like, oh, like, how'd you guys do it? Like, you guys are so successful. Like, what happened? Like, when did it click? And he's like, well, the genius thing, like, if, people are asking, like, what's the genius secret to success? He's like, we just didn't quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we made the mistakes and, just kept going.
Yeah. I think about that a lot because, like, I don't know, as age is creeping up, I know that I'm like incredibly young still, but like every year that I get older and my health insurance that I mooch off of my parents for comes closer, I think about like, man, am I gonna have to like give it all up soon, you know? But like, I don't know. I just keep being like just one more year or 2 more years of like just working really hard. Like, I don't know. I feel like once you're kind of in it, you just always make it work so that you can't give up. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm just saying that I guess yeah, it's one of those things that is really tempting to just like stop, but it's kind of like once you're in it, you can't just give it up. So,
Yeah, it's like I remember, you know, that deadline, and there's still more deadlines of like wanting to, you know, have these, because some people, you know, success is very like tangible things and tangible, like, you know, it's like I started as a desk worker and now I'm a assistant manager. And you're like, cool, you're you get a little bit of a pay bump, you get more vacation days, you might get access to certain, you know, health plans. You know, it's a very structured, like, if I do this for long enough in a way that is appealing to the people above me, I will get elevated to that position, and then I will, you know, continue my way up. And for some people it's nice because it's, you know, it helps kind of put a focal point instead of just like, you know, oh, I do the same thing every day and
yeah.
it's whatever. So when, like, you know, I still need to negotiate car insurance with my folks, because I went from, like, you know, I had a Jeep for like 6 or 7 years, and then in the last 3 years I've had, or I guess I'm on year 2 with this Buick, but I've had this Buick for 2 years. I had a Honda for a year, and that, like, you know, it was already so old. I would like try to drive it and accelerate onto the highway, and sometimes the engine would just cut off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is a dangerous car. And then, you know, I had a Pontiac for a year too, and so with all these car changes, they're like, hey, if you're gonna, like, we don't care if you know, have these like cheap cars and you have to keep, you know, you're trying to find cars in your budget or range or whatever, or like, you know, having to kind of be like, hey, could you like help with this much of the car and then I'll pay you back because I have this gig and it's gonna pay like 500, and so it's like I want to get out of that cycle of just, you know, that type of thing where it's like, okay, I'm fully on my own. There's no little tiny, like, you know, I'm still on a family
Right.
car insurance plan, but
Yeah.
I
The
don't know,
cars
people
are
have their other opinions about it too.
the worst. The worst part of being an adult. My car breaks down like every other week, and I'm like, why do I pay so much money for this? But yeah, I feel you there. It's the last part of like the independence that you're like, I want to be fully independent, but also, you know, there's also a lot of expenses in being a musician. Like the car is absolutely necessary because we drive so much.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know. So it's always that balance of like, ugh, how do
Y-
you how do you move up, man?
Yeah, and like, and even like, because I think of people who live in cities with, you know, they use more public transportation. They're like, it's like I've never owned a car. I just have a bike and I just take the subway. And it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
but
you don't
you're,
have a massive keyboard, okay? It's different.
yeah, you don't have, like, we can't all have this folksy story of like, oh, I just have a guitar on my back and I just ride into the sunset. It's like, nope, I have a
If I
piano.
brought my piano case onto the freaking subway, it would take up like half of that car. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and like, and just like the, you know, I think I have a friend who lives in France, and a lot of how she gets around as a cellist is trains. But
Hmm.
France is also like, you know, smaller than certain American states. So it's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
like you think of some people living in Texas, it's like you think of the big cities like, oh, Dallas and Austin. It's like that's like 4 hours away or whatever crazy number I heard the other
Hmm.
day.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's just
yeah.
not it's not doable. Well, and just for us as Michigan specific musicians, it's like how many gigs do we have to go up north for in the summer? Or like I mean, there was like before the pandemic, our bands are playing in Ohio so much. I don't know why, but like
Yeah.
it's more than just playing in Grand Rapids. So it's like you gotta have a car. I drive to Lansing every single week to play, piano at work. So it's necessary.
Yeah, so and that's that's kind of the reality of like people might see a portion of what we do, but like, oh, I saw Olivia, she was with August, and it was at this festival I happened to had a ticket at, and then they go away and they're like, that's her life. She must just always like playing all these festivals. And it's like, no,
I mean, I kind of wish.
Yeah, it'd be great if that was.
But no, if you want to be a musician nowadays, you got to dabble in like 6 facets of the music industry. And when I say music industry, I mean like be willing to teach small children, be willing to work at churches, be willing to, I don't know, whatever involves music, you just are like, sure, I can do it. I'll learn how to do that job that I've never done because I need it.
Yeah, so you Lansing is what was your job in Lansing again?
I am the director of the contemporary worship group there. So
fancy.
It's at a Catholic church. It's
contemporary Catholic.
This is a very progressive thing for a church to have, which is why I drive to Lansing for it.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like I play piano and there's like a worship band basically, and I plan the music for them. But I have infiltrated basically all of my fellow musicians that I play with in August or other things into that praise and worship band.
Oh.
So
just
I
your
got
band.
All my friends their job. Yeah, basically. Like for a while when Teresa was still in the band, it was me, Michael, Teresa, and then we just had a different bass player and drummer. But
wow.
Yep. But that's the day job, is playing church music and also lessons. And then, it's funny because I before the pandemic I'd laugh because I'd be like at a bar Saturday night to like 1 a.m, and then I'd go to church the next day and play there. You do what you gotta do if you want to be a full-time musician.
Yeah, it's like people don't like I find it so funny that like healthcare is thinking just specifically like healthcare it's so accessible to jobs that have such low risk for like. It's like, oh yeah, I got really great healthcare. I just sit at a cubicle all day.
Yeah.
It's like you drive into the city, you park, you go to the office, you're there all day, you get in your car and drive back home. And it's like musicians have to like, it's like, oh, there's a storm. We could, crash the car at 3 a.m. trying to drive back from a thing, or like,
which has happened.
Yeah, it's just like it's like if anyone needs healthcare, it's like these people who are like. Being out and about and like interacting in different communities and like, long hours. Yeah. Getting like coming back home super late, getting not enough sleep, getting up early.
Yeah.
And
the system doesn't make sense, but we already know that.
Yeah. Hopefully it's at least most of the people who will listen to this have some idea of like, if they have musician friends who are like, yeah, I never see them. I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because we have to lead like 6 different lives to maintain our one.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I was talking with someone about being more self-employed again, and I mean I mentioned earlier like how I'm a better boss than I was a few years ago, but I'm still undoing a lot of that work ethic of being in music school. Is like over this past year I kind of came to terms with like I'm naturally going to be drawn to and will work hard. Like that's not the issue. The issue is how do I pump the brakes? How do I feel okay taking, 3 days in a row to do nothing and just like
Burnout
enjoy
is
not
real.
doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, well, and I think maybe this is never something that I thought about when deciding to become a musician. Um, like this is not only our like passion and the hobby and like the thing that we do for fun, but now you have to put like a price tag on it. So a lot of times I get really burnt out, and like when I want to relax, it's confusing to because the way I used to relax was to play piano and sing.
Yep.
And now it's like, but that also feels like work because if I'm going to play piano and sing, I should be practicing for this gig or I should be practicing for this, thing that I have to do later. And
Right.
so I feel guilty doing the thing that is the way that I relax. So it's a very confusing thing of how to stop yourself from burning yourself out really quickly and being like, okay, you can just do nothing and you can
Yeah.
play music for fun and it doesn't have to have a purpose. You don't have to do it for a project. You can just do it because you feel like it.
Yep. And that's been an interesting thing to try and, like I felt like February, I had, some social media posts, not a lot of, I don't know, in the grand scheme of me creating videos, it's only been a more recent thing. So I don't have that rhythm of like, oh yeah, I'll do like, oh, it's the hashtag play this thing really well challenge. And then you try and do that. But, I probably have like 7 of those saved from like a year ago. Of just like, well, this seems like I could do it. And then I don't do it. But, or I could do it. And it's just late, but
Mm-hmm.
it might be, you know, it's still something like that. That's what I've been telling, you know, it's like, well, that content's old. Like people want to see new stuff. It's like, yeah, if the content's old, but we don't have a lot of content, but the content's good,
Mm-hmm.
like just
Who
put it,
cares?
like what's the harm in just putting it up? You get out, there's so many like throwback Thursday posts and like,
Yeah, well, and the
flashback
part
Friday or
like it to to be honest, we aren't getting out much yet. So we're creating content in the same environment over and over again. So like uh after a while we get bored of ourselves too. So like we want to reminisce and maybe throw in that video that you took like with you actually were collaborating with people because you could a year ago. Like it's something different and new not only for people to see even if it's not now, but it's different for you. Like it just feels good to change it up when you can't really right now.
yeah, and I've always, every time I learn like, about, I think of like how in schools you're studying all these, musicians and they seem like these untouchable, immovable legends that they just were born and then they changed the world and then that was it. And it's like, you don't learn a ton about the human side of everyone and, people getting burnt out, people not creating for large periods of time, people, having, substance abuse issues, interpersonal relationship issues, mental health issues they didn't address. Like, it's just like, a lot of the times people see the problems of music as like part of music or like the
Yeah.
problems with the individual or the things they aren't addressing because they've been elevated to a certain platform and then they don't feel like they can address them because they're part of a mechanism of like, no, you're just supposed to go out there and sing and dance and then disappear until we need you to do that again.
Yeah.
We'll take a cut as your management. You can have your face on a billboard and like get a residuals from your album and you could buy a fancy house, but you'll never be there because we want you to be on tour. Like it's such a weird like relationship of like how artists are presented to the audience. And then now that in the last decade, there's been more with the advent of like social media and certain platforms for more interpersonal engagement. You're starting to see beyond that kind of that exterior, and still some people are like, they want to curate their social experience of like, it's like, no, I just want this to be a gallery of like positive vibes, and I don't want anyone to know that I have like I'm behind on rent, even something like that. Or
yeah, I think, well, that is something, I don't know, new, is that even these like recording artists that are like massive, like someone like Taylor Swift or Billie Eilish or whatever, nowadays, they can be in charge of their own social media if they want. Or like John Mayer, he can be in charge of his own social media and put out whatever the frick he wants. And that's okay, because like it's actually like, as a fan, you feel more connected that way. But I think when I was growing up, the way that artists, like big pop artists, like you only saw what the interviews that they did when they were out, and they had planned kind of like what their answers were going to be, and they went to the award shows and they looked a certain way because they had prepared to look that way.
Yep.
But we're also seeing like this thing of, okay, artists are a lot more human than we thought. And whether you're a massive recording artist or like, you're someone like me who's just like, making music in their room, we're all dealing with our own mental stuff, because this job is like one that's really confusing, because like we said, the whole burnt out thing, you can get really burnt out on it, but also like emotionally it's really confusing, because you're supposed to be vulnerable and put yourself out there and tell your story, but also you don't know where your boundaries are. And this is not a job for everyone, which is why not everyone does it. But I like the fact that we're getting kind of more of that humanity out of these bigger artists by getting a sneak peek into their life more, seeing their personalities and stuff.
Yeah, because it's such a, it's one thing to like kind of casually absorb art in general, and you kind of have like like, oh, I just listen to whatever pops on. Like I don't seek anything out. I just have things given to me or thrown at me, or I might have a ping of like, that might be fun, and I'd go to a thing and leave halfway through. Like I never get those people, but the like the people who engage with art and artists and the humanity behind everything, they're gonna get more out of it, but they're also going to kind of understand that there is work. Like even if someone's naturally proficient at an instrument, or they have like maybe they have a good way of how they curate and present their appearance, or their the aesthetics of their art, there's always that like they all need sleep, they all need some kind of community around them, they all need moments to rest and moments to really just like focus and dig in. And so I guess that is good. There's more access in that respect of people being able to not just see themselves in terms of like an aspirational goal, like I could be a rock star, like he was just from a small town and whatever, and now he's in an arena. It's like they could be like, oh yeah, I'm burnt out of what I'm doing too, like I feel that, or I don't get a lot of sleep because I'm obsessed with this side hustle that I wish I could do as a full-time thing or something. So I don't know, has it been like, I'm sure with me with Earth Radio, mainly Blushing Monk, we just took a break because Travis had a kid and Ryan's in another city. But I'm with Earth Radio, it's been interesting navigating like how we're feeling. Like we took a couple trips as a band, but it was we had to kind of check a box of like, we're not really near a big city center. We're out in nature most of the time. We're only surrounded by our immediate friend group. It's warmer, sunnier weather. We're outdoors more than we're indoor. Like, you know, there's a list
Yeah.
of like how to accommodate for good reason.
Right.
But I was wondering like how that's been the navigating with, you know, knowing that everyone gets together in the band to do stuff, but then they're all interacting and connecting with other people as they leave.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Like Michael and I laugh about this because, you know, like, because, yeah, we, from the beginning, I think we've tried to be really careful about it, you know, and I think everyone in the band has their own like different comfort levels, and we just like always are respecting each other for that, because like, you know, we get together and practice every week, but with the mindset of kind of like how you guys in Earth Radio, you guys are all like really close friends. You know, these are my close friends, so like we're not really seeing many people outside of, I think, that group, or if we are, like, I don't know, like at least for like me and Michael, we're basically seeing those people and maybe like our coworkers and
Yep.
maybe my parents. And then like, you know, everyone's very aware that like we're, I don't know, we're just really respectful, and we're probably not seeing too many people actually outside of that small group anyways.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, everyone has their different comfort level in the band, but you know, like we wear masks at practice, and we when we do go to things, like we just had that Dogtown live session, like, you know, it's just like expected, like wear your mask, be smart, because we know that we don't want to be the one to ruin it for everybody. And like this, for us, like those band practices are necessary because, you know, we need them for things that we have coming up, but also I think it's like the thing we look forward to. It's our socialization for the week. So we're not going to mess it up by doing dumb stuff. But I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I think a lot of like fans are kind of like nervous to get together, understandably, and I think we just kind of lucked out because they're my friends anyways, so I'm not seeing too many other people, so
yeah, it's like, you know, earlier today I was walking, you know, the pier and, you know, kind of Main Street area of, well, for a second, for Grand Haven with a friend that I've known since high school. And it's like, I know that she, you know, she sees mainly her roommates. They have people over maybe a couple times a month. And it's like, you know, oh, another couple. Like, it's not like, oh, we'd have 15 people in a house or something. And then she sees a lot of people working at a bank, but it's, you know, everyone's masked up. There's already all the safety protocols in there. A lot of people, you know, banking has kind of had that trend of like most people want to, you know, the convenience of, oh, I could do it what I need to do at an ATM or, you know, out in my car. I don't need to go into a branch. I can just like quick get in, deposit something, withdraw something, get out. So it's like I know she, you know, she isn't like in some crazy like she's not like a, you know, I teach like 50 kindergartners and they're always there and there's no online school. It's like everyone's kind of set up to be like semi in person if they normally were in person, or, you know, fully remote if they can do it.
Right. Well, and I think not only for like when you're just like meeting with your group, having kind of an understanding of like everyone kind of, it's an unsaid thing of like, just, you know, be respectful, don't ruin it for everybody. But also when you're now that things are opening up and we're like having to like start to accept gigs and stuff like that, being really careful of like which things you say yes to, because or like which people you decide to collaborate with, like actually in person, because there's this kind of like underlying thing of like, there has to be a bit of trust there, of being like, I'm very careful, but like I don't know about you, so I just like ask that you're, you know, careful as well, or like you let me know, you know, if something's different. But
Yep.
especially at these gigs, I think, you know, we played even a little bit last summer out, and each one I had to be like, I got everyone's feedback in the van of like, do you feel comfortable playing this? Like, is this something you are okay with?
Yep.
And even sometimes like we got to the gig and we'd be like, you know, we don't really feel comfortable at this just yet. So like I'm not gonna accept gigs like this, you know, going past that. And just like having to make those hard decisions, because unfortunately, you know, not everyone is on the same page as you in terms of like safety measures. And until all of us are vaccinated, it's like you have to be kind of strict on what you're doing so that you don't ruin it for everyone in your group.
Yeah, and it's so like one thing that, you know, my hope for Earth Radio in the next couple years is that we know how to do the thing of like, here's a song, make it into what we want to make it into, get into the studio, do whatever we want to do in the studio. We can, you know, work as fast or as like careful as possible. You know, like this single we're figuring out when to release. We've pretty much had it like drafted and 95% recorded in like less than a month. And it's like, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that there's that option that we can take something and turn it into something we like that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, my hope is, because it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be a mixed bag of like building an audience is so weird trying to do it in person, because like even in a pre-pandemic world, it's like you could drive all the way to Chicago and maybe 6 people show up, because people don't take a chance on entertainment anymore when they have so much that they like, oh, I could stay home and watch WandaVision and not go see the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, maybe that person would have dug a band and now they've missed that connection for who knows how long, until maybe a band gets to a point where they're able to do regular ad promos and they like, oh, this trailer is cool. Like, who's this band? It's like, oh, they were here 2 years ago. It's like, but my hope for Earth Radio is we dial in how we present ourselves online so that we can continue to connect with people, because we know, like, I think of last year, we had a cap at these rake beer shows once a month for like, I think it was like 40 people. And we would hit that cap usually the day of. Like, we'd sell like, you know, 20, 25 tickets over, you know, a 2-week period. And then the day of was when the rest of them would sell out. So we know that we can, you know, out of the 1,800 Facebook fans that we have, or like, you know, the 1,600 people on whatever, or the 1,200 listeners on Spotify, I guess that's global, but out of the people who follow us in the community, whatever percentage of the social metrics says, you know, like, these people live in West Michigan. And not only the people that follow us, but the people that follow us that are also, you know, not booked that evening for a gig. So it's like, okay, cut away some of the music demographic, because musicians tend to, like, at least around here, support each other. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whittle that all the way down. It's like, we can get 40 people to show up to a thing. So why are we trying to, you know, like, we shouldn't have to, you know, like, I remember the State Theater in Kalamazoo, you know, they were trying to figure out how to do shows, but the way they wanted to do shows was like, have bands essentially pay for everything through the sales of tickets. So we would have had to sell like 160 tickets virtually to not even get paid. It was just to cover the cost of the crew.
Yeah.
And the rental of the space. And it's like, that shouldn't, like, unless we have an established like fan base, Like,
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
yeah. And it's interesting to see who, like, you know, like the people who have millions and millions of like, you know, like, oh, this YouTube channel has 2 million people, but there's a breakdown of like, okay, there's 2 million people who have subscribed. Here's how many people that don't really engage with it that often. Here are the people that watch every video, and then here's the subset of people that buy some of the merch, and then here are the people who buy everything. So it's like those people are the ones that are really the biggest, you know, that's the metric. It's like the diehards who are like, there's a new album, a new shirt, a new piece of art. I'm just gonna buy it and consume it, and you know, that type of person is, you know, you could have a couple thousand of those people and have a good solid career, even if your socials are like, oh, I have 2 million followers, and it's really just like, you know, a handful of people who really support and want you to do well. So that's kind of my thinking of like, we don't need to take some of these shows that we drive, you know, like, oh, let's play Woodlands Tavern on a Wednesday. We'll drive 6 hours to play for 5 hippies.
Yeah.
Like,
Not worth
no,
it.
sick of that.
But I think I listened to a podcast about Patreon with Ari's Take.
Oh yeah,
with the founder of Patreon.
Jack Conti.
Yeah. And I listened to the whole thing about how like his main point was like, you don't need tons of people to like you. You just need some like die-hard people who will do anything for you. And if you can build that community and engage with them, get close with them, like make them, I don't know, feel like a part of that community, you'll build up a more successful career that way. And at least maybe that's not the case if you decide that you're going to be like that, you're a big, huge recording artist, right? But for people like you and me in Earth Radio and August, like that's where our money is. Finding those people who will literally, like, they show up to every single one of your shows, every single one of your live streams. They're always sharing your stuff. Like, I want to find more of those people, like people who genuinely enjoy my music and want to support me, and I want to support them too. You know, like I get to know those people, and because they come to all the shows, or they're constantly commenting on things, and you create a relationship. And that's not only is it going to be more sustaining, you know, but it's also like you feel like you get something more out of it as an artist. Like I'd much rather that audience than a bunch of faces I've never met who don't, like, they're like, yeah, it's okay, but I her music is just fine, but like I follow her, you know. A good solid audience can do a lot of work.
Yeah, it's like and people, you know, I try to, I think of that too, like when I'm at a show or I see, you know, repeat people who you know, I try to interact with. It's weirder now, like with, you know, doing the listening room. It's like I want to chat with people, but it's also kind of a dinner music experience, and I don't want to like go out of my way to be like, hey, I saw you clapping. I don't think that meant, I don't think this means you want to talk to me, but I don't know. Like, that'd be like a weird, like, hey, maybe you're just doing that because it's like etiquette and you're just, that's what you want to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean I should like come over and interrupt something. But I do take, it's like I do take notice of the people who show up, the people who like they're at a show and I'm like, they've been to every show that I've done in the last like 3 months. Doesn't matter which group, doesn't matter where, as long as it's like in a close enough vicinity to Grand Rapids, they're usually there.
Yeah.
And it's like those are the kind of people that those are the kind of people you think about more than like, I don't know, the broad appeal. because there's so few. Like the only way people are so, you know, broad, that have such a broad appeal, is because they're kind of engineered to, like, in terms of the way they're marketed, like, you know, they're here's the wall, here's the viewing glass to the terrarium, and then it's like, here's how they're, oh, look at him play music, wow, and then it pops up on a thing, and they're just like, I play music and thank you to all my fans, and they disappear. It's like, he said thank you, wow, like, it's like people
there's
who,
no relationship built, or like it's like a very one-sided relationship, which, I mean, yeah, they build it up to be that way, and they generalize their not only the image that they're giving out, but like the product they're giving out, with like the type of music maybe that they play is meant for to be that, to be for multiple different types of people. But yeah, they miss out on the relationship that you could create by, you know, seeing those people that come to every single one of your shows. Or like, I don't know, I just find it more authentic sometimes to just like these people, I'm playing a very specific, like, you know, the music that I want to create isn't always like what you're gonna hear on radio and stuff, like, and these people come to my shows because they enjoy very specifically the music that I'm making. So that just means a lot more, that they're like willing to be a part of it. So I don't know.
yeah, and it's, you know, and it helps, at least for me, it helps to think, you know, what, you know, there's always like, oh, how can we get more people engaged? But then you also take a step back and you're like, oh, these are, you know, like, we can feel confident about putting stuff out because we know certain people who are gonna, you know, be in our corner and want to explore certain things with us, because of, yeah, just of what we're up to. Yeah, and I don't know how, like, you know, I had after the gig yesterday, there was like, the way the listening room's like sound station looks, it looks like a DJ setup, almost, just like, you know, just to some random stranger who doesn't understand gear. So like, they got done hearing music, and then it was like this 20 something is like, hey, it's my girlfriend's birthday, could you play like this song for her? It's like, it's like, what do you think? Is this Applebee's? Like, what do you, is like, are people so spoiled that they can't like be content with like, oh, this is how they're set up, okay, that's how they're set up. Or I had a lady who she requested, you know, it was mid song, it was like, requested she wanted Elton John. I was like, okay, I don't really know any Elton, like, I don't know any words to any Elton John songs. And I don't really know any Elton John songs offhand. Like, maybe there's something on my iPad I could sight read. And then she's like, I hear he's got this great song called Piano Man. And I'm like,
oh my God.
No, he doesn't. What are you doing? That's not Elton John. Like, wait. Like,
oh no.
I was just like, this is, so, you know, I ended up playing like Stevie Wonder because I'm like, okay, maybe
obviously the knowledge there isn't, they won't know the difference. So
yeah, and well, in my head, I just was like, you know, he's probably covered Stevie Wonder before, right? There's
sure.
It's just, but it was that moment of like, it's like people still think that, like, it's like, you know, I get it if you've been to Mojo's and then the next time you go to a place where there's a pianist, you're like, that's what all pianists must do. They must just take requests all the time. And it's like, not necessarily, and, you know, kind of read the room, but she was also a little drunk, so it was like, okay.
You're always going to get the person who screams, you know, like, to play Freebird, and like, it's, if you got to get used to it again, but
yep.
Yeah. I mean, even my own like family members who, you know, you would think they get like what I do at this point, but they're like, you know, can you cover, you know, this song? It's like something that Like, absolutely not. Like, not anywhere near my wheelhouse, or like would sound good if I did it. But or like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
People's
like,
ideas of musicians all get, they're like, you should, or this is my favorite one, at the end of me singing or doing anything, everyone has to come up to me and say, have you thought about auditioning for American Idol? I think about Michael for how many times people come up and tell me that, and I'm like, yes, I have thought about that very much, and every single time I've come to know I will not be doing that.
I will not do that.
It's a very conscious decision.
But you could, like, I think you do, like, you sing, and that's what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, that's how you become famous. You got to do American Idol.
Yeah, it's like you also could be locked into the mechanism of contract loopholes that is American Idol.
and that's what I always say to them. I was like, you should look up how much of control they have over your life when you sign on. I was like, then ask me again if I should do that.
Yeah, like
I take it as a compliment, but
yeah, it's like it's that moment where you remember, like, okay, people only interact with music in certain ways, not even consistently. It's very, personalized. Like, half of the time that we're marketing as artists is just like, we're just trying to get in front of people to be like, do you want to add us to your playlist, or do you want to add us to, like, do you want to stream our music on the regular? Do you want to follow us? Do you want to, like, be engaged with? It's like, it's not just like, hey, we're in the nebulous, like, what is art, and how do we hold up art and community, and, like, these broader questions of art in a space. It's just like, hey, do you want to, like, have us on your phone?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to look at me. You could just, like, put me on your phone, and that would help.
Yeah.
Or the Patreon's been interesting because you want to, that thing of pricing what you do is, like, sometimes it's weird or exhausting trying to qualify, like, like what you want to place value on, or how much you want to place value on what you do. And it's like, I give people the option with the Patreon, like, it's like, hey, go check out the Patreon, because first of all, some people don't even know what that is. So it's like, okay, go check out this website, see what it's about, see what my thing's about, see what I offer for a certain price. If you don't like that, then can you do a clicking? Can you click things? Can you click subscribe? Can you click follow? Can you click like? Can you click? Yeah. You just click. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Like, it helps.
Just metrics, algorithm, anything. Like, you don't have to pay any money. It takes half a second, and then you're done. You could forget that you're even subscribed to me, but
yeah,
it's like, yeah, engagement's weird because it's all trying to convert it into a living, and some people, I find as being 28, there's some of my friends that are like deep into tech, and then there's some of my friends who don't care about tech, and to have that audience try and meet in the middle of, like, yeah, support me, is like, okay, some people won't even log on to Facebook, understandably. Some people don't really care about YouTube. They think it's just some goofy thing with cat videos, when it's, like, an industry now. and like, I had someone comment, because I had done the sponsored post of my Sunday streams, and they were like, where can I support your music? And it's like, where can I hear these streams? I'm like, well, I've been doing them on Facebook. I'm seeing if I can multicast to Instagram in some way. I just need to figure that out. And they were like, oh, Facebook, too social. I'm like, what does that mean? You're interacting with me on a social platform.
Yeah, that makes zero sense.
Yeah. It's like, I guess I get, like, I don't know, like Facebook kind of being OG social media. It's like maybe they were overwhelmed by it and then just kind of left it. And Instagram's kind of like a gallery that you kind of browse, like an
Yeah.
art museum of random people's lives. But um, it's like, it's like I don't blame the person for not wanting to be engaged on Facebook. It's just like, it was another example of like, I don't know, I can't market to everyone, so
Yeah.
I shouldn't try to. I could be accommodating to a point, but I can't, satisfy every person's like, well, this is how I enjoy entertainment, and if you don't have this set up, I'm not going to come. It's like, good, you weren't in my life anyway. Like, go away.
Yeah.
Get out
I
of
don't
here.
know. Well, and that's the different part too of like that we've never really had to deal with of it was either people came to your gig or they didn't come to your gig. But like getting people to come to your live stream is well really weird because like I shared this meme a couple months ago of like I think like everything was on fire and then there's a person shouting, "Hey, I have a live stream, please come to it tonight."
Yeah.
And that's how it feels whenever you post anything to social media concerning like, please come to my live stream. Like
Yeah.
so much other stuff happening. Like you'll like scroll past an article about cute dogs, and then the next thing is like a third world country is being, bombed, and you're like, the next thing you post is, please support me by coming to my live stream. So like it just feels extra I don't know, weird to put something on there anyway when it's just you're just like inundated with all this information.
Yep.
It's just it feels really insignificant. But also it's like, yeah, okay, well if you don't have a Facebook, I'm streaming it to YouTube too. Okay, well you don't have a YouTube, well I'm streaming it to blah blah blah. Where like, normally I could just be like, just show up at this time, at this place, I'll be playing there. And everyone can do that,
Yep.
If you're in the area, you can do it. But I don't know, but there's also positives as well. Like
Yep.
I can like my family who live across the country can watch it, or like, people have found, my music that don't live anywhere near Michigan. So there's good and bad to it. But
Yes.
I think that's why it's good to have in-person shows and put stuff onto social media. It needs to be a balance. We can't have just one or the other because you're gonna miss out on something. But yeah.
Yeah, and like, I was talking with someone about the, me doing these types of listening room shows and also streaming them. And it's like, well, you want people to show up and like go to the thing and like support the thing. Like, why would you, stream it? Like, you're giving it away and you're not keeping it this thing like, oh, you got to show up and live in the moment. It's like, we are so far past that now. We are years past that. Like, everyone just wants what they want. Like, it's not like, it's like, well, you got the radio and color TV just came out, and then you go see them in person because you see, you only have you have one song and you obsess over that one song that comes on the radio, and then, oh, the British invasion, like the Beatles came over and people like were just like obsessed because they lived in a completely different continent and the only way you could hear them was on the radio or on TV. And now it's like, people can follow like, oh, it's my second YouTube channel where I post like things unrelated to my career. Like, people can get that specific with their engagement, and to not have something live streamed, you miss an opportunity. I've been getting in the habit of like, if I live stream it, maybe that concert sucks and who cares? I can always make the video private. There's not a lot of people tuning into these streams anyway, and the people that do are the ones who want to engage with that type of medium. So it's like, why would I just, deny and have it archived too? You can, like, oh, I liked this song, clip it, post it. Like, there's so much utility in like having that dual setup of live and streamed. Whereas, like, because I was doing that before, in 2019 when Earth Radio was doing a lot of traveling, I would post streams from the Tonic Room in
Yeah, I
Chicago
remember that.
and just be like, hey, we're here. We're did this thing you supported at home. Now we're taking it to other states.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny with people who are still like, but what if people need to live in the moment? It's like, no, who does that?
No one's living in the moment anymore. Okay?
Nobody lives in the moment.
We're all over the place, and we're just, you're just putting stuff out there. But I also like, we've been doing the thing of like, well, like the past summer when we did, play the
Yep.
like 3 or 4 gigs that we actually got out to do. We still, yeah, we live streamed all of them too. Not only because there was like a limited amount of people that could come, but because like I'm gonna put all my like Venmo and Cash App and stuff on that. That's another way I can make money. Like if people who are at the actual gig want to pay me money and like people can watch it and like donate, like I'm gonna take both if I can, because people are able, like people are willing to watch it whether it's in person or live stream. So I'm gonna take advantage of both, where I wouldn't have done that before. I would have just played the gig live and never ever posted anything about it. And
Yeah.
so it just opened up a whole different, like, oh, I never even thought I could, stream this as well. And like people would want to listen and donate. Like I'm not gonna stop them. So
No. Yeah, it's like I think the part of, people talk about like, oh, diversify what you do as an artist and, diversifying your incomes, or like seeing how you're like, I'm a performer, but what can that can translate to studio work. It can translate to live performance. It can translate to building, streaming. Like some people they literally just have a nice, aesthetic set. It might be their bedroom and it's like, oh, it's like a unicorn fantasy, and they play acoustic guitar and they have 2,000 people tune in every time they stream. People can pay for subs. They could pay for, timed, like YouTube with the super chats. I didn't even think that was a thing. And super chats are really just like, it's people wanting to contribute and being like, hey, I love your stuff. Like thanks for doing this. It's been great. And super chats are timed windows in a separate chat thread. So like, if you like pay $5, it stays up for however many minutes and then it vanishes. But, it gets put in a separate thread where it's easier for someone who's streaming to see it and acknowledge it, which is usually the type of interaction people who are paying for these types of chats are seeking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, there's all these mechanisms of like how to, interact virtually and how to do stuff. But, yeah, to like you were saying, like, it's like, oh, people could, send me, pay for something or tip me. Like for me yesterday, I got a $5 tip because one of my friends was studying and they threw on my stream while they were studying.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, hey, thanks for that. And they gave me $5. And I was like,
Yeah.
Sweet. Like,
just another way. And
yeah.
so like I would have never thought to do before all this stuff went down, but I'm never gonna stop doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna try to do that.
Yeah, and it, eventually for the listening room, I want to have the 3-camera, like multicam, closer to the musicians, auto panning, so you can kind of see what everyone in the band's doing. Ideally, they're like, people underestimate the value of like a moderator, someone who's just like behind the computer, checking chat, checking the cameras, checking. It's like when you have to do that all yourself, it's so hard to.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I missed this comment from 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a whole interesting thing. And I think too, like this year, with Earth Radio, like not having a ton in our band fund and only having a handful of things that we're like figuring out how to do live, or like figuring out ways to, put more money into that account. We've kind of naturally been drawn to like, okay, what things what things are we capable of doing ourselves, and what things do we need to have money, like what things do we, like, oh, Spotify promotion and playlisting, like we will pay for a campaign, like let's try that, see what happens. And oh, like working with Kevin at Third Coast, like he helped streamline the process of getting ideas into recorded form. And yeah, I'm sure with August, like you were saying, like you've learned so much from this past year, but you had a lot of equipment ready to go, even just heading into being more virtual.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm blessed to have Bailey and Michael,
Yep.
because they are really, really good at, even if they don't know how to do something, they're super quick learners, and like it just comes really quickly to them to learn all this like technology thing. So we, speaking of saving like money, I mean, the same with us. Like we don't always have a ton in our band fund, so having people who learn how to record themselves, like mix and master all on our own, like we save a ton of money that way. Or like do our own live streams, do our own promotional stuff. Like each one of us in the band kind of has a little role to play that's not related to being a musician at all. Like it's like
Right.
the stuff that maybe we would have hired out for, we've kind of learned how to do inside of our band. And that's been super helpful in all of this because we were doing that already before the pandemic because we were trying to save money. And then all of those skills came in handy because of the pandemic, and like we were left with no other option. You can't go to we couldn't go to a recording studio anymore. So we could record in our basements and then send it through Google Drive to Bailey to mix and master. And we found out that we liked that anyways, because we could have like an amazing amount of control on the whole project, which I mean, everyone in my band is, I think we would all consider ourselves quite perfectionists. So, we could, be on the same page of like, okay, Bailey, I know it's going to take you like 4 more tries to do this, but like, can you fix my vocals here, or can you use a different sound for my keyboard here, or whatever. And it was totally okay because like we all had the same amount of like we all wanted that too, so we didn't feel like we can't ask another thing of the recording engineer because like we don't have enough money to like pay him for longer, like so we got to have so much control over it. And I don't know, it's been really helpful too because like Michael has become this like live streaming guru. He actually, like, one of his jobs is to moderate for Folius Duo.
Oh, right.
He works on a lot of, he's like the behind the scenes person on a lot of their live streams. But like we've been like slowly but surely learning like all these new skills, and I've been learning myself how to do like a lot of the promotional aspects, and the social media aspects that I didn't care as much about before. But like, we kind of like stepped it up because we see that that's like the only platform we can work off of right now. So like I went hard on like figuring out, coming up with ideas for like Instagram and for Facebook, and like making everything look really streamlined and stuff as best as I can. I don't know how successful, but like,
right.
I don't know. We were all on that path anyways, out of necessity. We didn't have a lot of money, but it like has kind of worked out because we got stuck in a position that those were the only options anyways. So it's been interesting. We got lucky. We got really lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think, for me, wanting to have expand what skills I do and also wanting to help people, this break from, I haven't really done any booking since Uh, I don't even know. I think the last email I had about gigs, other than like these listening room things that popped up, unexpectedly, um, it was like it was basically to say like, hey, yeah, we'll do, I think it was for the gig we had in October that was just kind of like, yeah, we'll play this thing and make, a little bit of money, and it's, in a rainy fall afternoon, and there's like 40 people there maybe.
Oh yeah, was it the Cherry Park thing?
No, I mean, we did that, but that was
Oh, that
at
was a
least a
different
little
thing.
bit better than it
Okay.
was like. I can't remember. I think it was in Cedar Springs, and it was
Okay.
like it was like it was like a festival sized speaker setup in a garage. So it was
Oh.
really just like it was like people outside were probably like yeah, and inside we were just like earplugs,
Yep.
help, like can't hear anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I think of like, you know, I've had people hit me up to wanna. It's like, would you want a book for me? And I'm like,
It's
it's like
what are you gonna?
and it's like it's from people like I would consider if it was like, I've seen you, you put in work, I've seen what you do. I don't necessarily like it's not like I've sought you out. I've just seen it from other people sharing it or people that I know talking to me about it. Like that's fine. I would rather work with that, like how whatever way that makes sense. But someone who like has like not done that legwork to get any sort of footing anywhere. It's like I
Mhm.
can't help you get access if you haven't like if it's like okay, let's start with like what are your socials? Well, I don't like social media. All right. Well,
Yeah, that's not gonna go well. Well,
cool. Thanks for playing. Like what do you want? What am I going to show them? You have no website, no recordings. No, it's like, but I could play an instrument. It's like, so can these 50 other people. It's like,
I will say though, and that if I think back, for anyone who's gonna listen to this, Dutcher was has been
oh yeah.
looking for me since I was like very like just starting out here in Grand Rapids, and that was me. I was like, I talked to my piano teacher and was like, hey, I want to get into playing shows. And he's like, you should, my other student, Dutcher, I think wants to be a booking agent. And so I hit you up and I had nothing. I like, I was like, yeah, I want to play shows a lot. And you're like, cool. I think I had like maybe one really bad EP. And
There was still at least sound like to
yeah,
reference.
so and you stuck with me, and like obviously as this I don't know past year has gone by, like there's not much gigs to pass around, but like uh you stuck through my rough phase, so I will say
Yeah.
uh thank you for that, but I was once that person.
Right. It's well, and it's like, yeah, that is true. Like, you got to start somewhere with, and asking. The worst people can say is no, and then you're like,
Right.
okay, that was what I was already there. It's like, oh, I wasn't working with a person. I asked them if I could work with them. They said no. All right, nothing's changed. Next, like,
Mhm.
figure something out. It's it's just it's the thing of like, especially now where I don't know, it's already so hard to navigate like it's like first you got to introduce yourself to someone. You have to have some kind of way to get into their like, oh, I did this thing that you might have been at, or I know these people you might have worked with, or I'm in a band with, someone you grew up from your childhood. Like it's
Mhm.
some way to connect in a local scene. Just like I'm not a total stranger. Like we understand a lot of the same people and see a lot of the same things, and then you know, then it's like, okay, who's booking? Is it someone who is dialed into like a system of like, I'm going to check my email and messages and phones and like have some sort of system of sifting through it when usually most booking agents are like overwhelmed with like, it's like, I want to play at this venue. And then, 80 emails deep, a lot of people are just, they're looking for ways to say no immediately because they have so many things to get through that those little things of like they look at it, you know, it could be as something as like, oh, this dude just says, hey, I play music and I'd love to play at the venue. And be like, okay, no, like you don't have anything to show me, and you like, I don't know I don't know how to work with, because the next question is going to be like, can you show me, like, do you have an album? Do you have a website? Do you have any sort of like any reference at all to the fact that what you're talking about is real and that I can observe it and make a decision on it? And then comes that layer of like, all right, we've, you know who I am, you know what I do. And then it's like, well, it doesn't really fit the vibe of the venue, or like, we don't know if we tend to book this type of thing. And it's like, okay, so you got to sit and
I've
get
had
through
it everywhere.
that.
How
And
many times I've been told that one as well.
yeah, what do you not like that it's not the radio? That just play the radio, I guess. I don't know. Like, and then to add for the pandemic, it's like, who's still working at a venue? You know, did they get let go? Are they even doing
Yeah.
music? What type of music are they doing? Maybe they're open small capacity outdoor patio in the summer, and it's like, we got 6 shows. And it's like, they're all booked from last year. All right, cool. So I've
Yeah.
just like not done any booking because I'm already working on my own stuff, and Earth Radio already was having that uphill battle because we're still such a new band, and
Right.
just trying to get into those certain spaces. We found more gigs last year just through mutual friends than we did like, traditional booking methods.
I think it's the same here.
Yeah.
Like when people are asking, hell yeah, we'll do it. But
Yep.
I don't even know where to start in terms of like sending out emails, because like I think everyone doesn't even know whether things are gonna happen still. So no one's taking stuff right now. Or if they are, like, they're asking people they know, they're not taking chances. The venues aren't going to take any chances right now. So they're
Yep.
not going to bring in that group they've never had before. Or like, even if I have played there before, like, yeah, a lot of the people, my connections there, I don't know if they're still there anymore. So
Yep.
I'm just, if people are asking, we'll be down. But that's why I think it's important to diversify your ways of making money, and also like what you're doing to stay relevant. Like,
Yep.
get more into, like, create more music, do more collaborations, do more stuff on social media until we can eventually get to that place again. But yeah, I'm not putting all my marbles in the show basket this year.
No. And I think of people like, I don't know, some of the people I follow on Instagram, a lot of beat makers I see doing this type of thing where they film, the process of making this like 1-minute beat loop, and they have like, they plug their sample pack or their plug-in or whatever. And it's like, that sold more plugins and packs and things than just like, oh, I'm doing a tour. It's like, no, you just popping in for a minute. You might have spent, 2-3 hours like tracking, mixing, editing, maybe, yeah, with video, putting all that together to upload. And then that sold, like, that minute of footage you spent just a little bit of time on did more for you than, this old advice thing of like, just email everybody and then someone has to say yes. And it's like, no, because I'm sick of all these spam accounts. So I just keep deleting, like, fire DM for promoguitar.net.
I think the music industry has just like changed drastically. Like, it was already changing drastically before the pandemic. But I mean, I think even we both are new to TikTok, but I'm already thinking about, like, how am I going to promote my music on TikTok? Because even though I'm not going to make money off of TikTok, that's an audience that I want to hit that could possibly, like, transfer over to something that could make money. Because I think that's, the way that people are consuming music is just like different. And yeah, those things like those 1 minute loop videos of like people building their loops that they put on to TikTok, those are like massively successful. So how can I adjust my craft to do what is authentic to me still, but like along a similar vein, because that's where it's headed right now. So I don't know whether you like it or not, it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it seems like, yeah, you have, the right combination of like your band's aware of this and, trying to, take steps to like improve what they're able to do with, even if it's like I love playing my instrument. Okay, why don't you film yourself playing your instrument and then learn how to record your instrument? And, you're never going to start off like, oh, I feel as like I did my first recording and now I'm as seasoned a veteran recording artist as like my favorite people. It's like if you make your mistakes in your bedroom and on your like Instagram page with under 2,000 followers, like now, then, that's going to lead to you improving down the road and more people, finding you and it's like, wow, you sound so good. How'd that happen? Well, I fell on my face for 10 years and here we are.
You got to build the skills somewhere, sometime. So do it now.
Yeah. And I think that's a good note to end on because I noticed that it's 15-4 and I have to drive back to Grand Rapids.
Fun.
Fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Where can people, I know we didn't even talk about the fact that you have a new EP and like you're doing that, like podcasting. We talked about a lot of stuff, useful stuff, but where can people find you and what you do and all that?
So people can find me, I guess, I have, as we talked about, mostly my band, August. You can find it facebook.com/AugustTheBand or Instagram August_the_band. But we are on Bandcamp, also August the Band, or all streaming places. But I also, if you want to check out my solo EP that's coming out on April 2nd, you can find me on Instagram at Olivia Vargas Music, and or on Facebook. I'm just like, I don't have an artist page for myself, but it's just a fun little project that I had the time to do this year. So, but yeah, I'll have a Bandcamp, and that'll be on all streaming sites as well. But yeah, those are the 2 places to find me.
Awesome. And for those who might be listening now, early, after the fact, all this stuff, you can support podcasts like these by going to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker. That's where you can contribute at different tier levels to get early access to content, to live streams like what's happening now. Or you can hire me as a, consultant, instructor, recording artist. And if you type in my name into Google, most of the things are under my name. So you can find all my socials using my name, my website, and all that good stuff. But, thanks again for jumping on this podcast amid all of my constant changing of this time.
No problem. Thanks for letting me talk with you for an hour. It's been fun. We haven't gotten to talk in a second. So.
Yeah, it's definitely been a minute.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, cool. Thanks, Cedric.
Yeah.